Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we are going to go through acute coronary syndrome or myocardial infarction. Now what is acute coronary syndrome? Acute coronary syndrome is an emergent situation that is characterized by the onset of myocardial ischemia, okay, that results in myocardial death. Okay, what myocardial death is? Myocardial death is called as myocardial infarction, or for better understanding it is known as heart attack. Okay, now when will it lead to an heart attack? If definitive measures are not taken. Okay, there are some signs that will tell us that this is going to lead to myocardial infarction. So when we understand those signs, there are some measures of interventions that can be carried out to prevent an heart attack or myocardial infarction. Alright, so first we are going to learn about the pathophysiology. Now what happens, we have all heard that a person who has experienced an heart attack or is about to experience an heart attack often complains of a sudden pain, okay, that is radiating to the arms. It is on the left side. We've all heard about that. Okay, that is what is called as angina. And now we are going to learn what causes angina. Angina is caused by when there is reduced blood flow in the coronary artery. Now why is there a reduced blood flow in the coronary artery? It is because the atherosclerotic plaque gets ruptured, or the plaque is completely blocking the coronary artery. So what happens when this happens before? The person will experience angina. Okay, now if you all have not watched what atherosclerosis is, I have already taken a video about that. I suggest you go and watch that so that you get a better understanding of what atherosclerosis is or what causes heart attack. Alright, okay, now we've learned about what causes the pain. Okay, this is what is going to cause a heart attack, but this is the first symptom that is people get to know. Okay, suddenly there will be a pain. So this is what causes that pain. Okay, now what happens in the area where the myocardium is getting permanently destroyed? Now what happens when how will the myocardium get permanently destroyed? There will be vasoconstriction. Okay, that is vasospasm, that is the sudden narrowing of the coronary arteries. Okay, what will happen if the coronary arteries are narrow or suddenly they get narrow? What will happen? What is the actually the main function of the heart is to pump blood. Coronary artery is the artery that supplies oxygen, is one of the arteries that supplies oxygenated blood. Alright, so what happens if there is a constriction or restriction in that area? What will happen is there will be reduced blood supply. Okay, due to this ischemia will develop. Okay, and this will cause ischemia is like there is no blood flow to the area, so the area will get depleted of oxygen. Okay, and if oxygen is getting depleted in a certain area in the human body, what will happen? That area will gradually go into death. Okay, when ischemia develops, the cellular injury begins due to the lack of oxygen, and there is infarction or death of the cells. This is how the person is getting heart attack. Okay, or myocardial infarction. All right. Okay, so we've learned about what acute coronary syndrome is. Okay, what an myocardial infarction is, and what the pathophysiology for the angina and the myocardial infarction is. Alright, now there are some clinical manifestations, okay, that the patient will come. What is clinical manifestation? A patient will come into the hospital, or somebody will tell you that I'm having so many symptoms. So that is called as clinical manifestation. Clinically what we can find out. Okay, the first thing that we all know is, in the movies, everywhere we've seen one basic thing that the person does. The person will have a chest pain. Okay, so that is, and it is the person will say suddenly it occurred. Okay, so that is one of the main characteristic symptoms that a person shows is chest pain. Okay, now this person might have previous diagnosis of coronary artery disease. Okay, now when the person is having a lot of pain, okay, the person will also complain that I cannot breathe properly, that is shortness of breath. Okay, the person might have indigestion, okay, nausea, anxiety. Okay, nausea and anxiety are like generally the person might have an idea that like heart attack is like a person gets heart attack this way. So when the person gets such symptoms, this person will go into anxiety and fear. So okay, and there might be indigestion also, and nausea as well. Okay, when you touch the skin of the person, it will be cool, and the skin will be pale. Okay, why it will be cool and pale? Because there is reduced oxygen supply. All right. Okay, and the person will be perspiring a lot, so there will be moist skin. Okay, and the heart rate and respiratory rate will be faster than normal. Okay, this is just a gist of what the person will show when the person is going through acute coronary syndrome, angina or myocardial infarction. Okay, now let's go system wise, like what each system will show. Like when a person is coming to a hospital, what are in your assessment, what all things you might find. Okay, so in the assessment part of it, for the cardiovascular system, okay, we will find that the person is having chest pain. Okay, and is that discomfort is not resolved by nitroglyceride. Okay, the person's heart sound will have may include S3, S4, and there will be a new onset of murmur when you are auscultating. Okay, the jugular vein might be distended. Okay, and there will be increased blood pressure, irregular pulse, and there will be ST segment and T wave changes. Okay, ECG might show tachycardia, bradycardia or dysarrhythmias. Okay, and this is what the cardiovascular system will go. The next system, respiratory system. What it will show? As I said earlier, the person will have shortness of breath, the person might have dyspnea, the person will have tachypnea, crackles and pulmonary edema. Alright. The next one is gastrointestinal. We have told earlier that the person will have nausea or the person might vomit as well. What is nausea? The symptom, like you feel like vomiting. That sensation is called as nausea. Okay. Now the person's urinary output might be decreased as well. Okay. Now let's go to the if the person's urinary output is decreased, we might get an idea that the person is going to cardiogenic shock. Alright. The next one is skin. Okay. The skin, as we said earlier, will be cool and calm, cool and pale. Okay. This is because like this symptom may again indicate cardiogenic shock because of the reduced oxygen. Next is neurological. Neurological is the person will be very anxious, the person will be restless, there will be lightheadedness. Okay, and this will all the person will be irritated in total. Okay, anxiety, restlessness and lightheadedness, everything will cause the person to go to a mental distress. Okay, next is psychologically the person will have fear. Okay, the person will be very afraid of what is going to happen, or am I going to die? Okay, will I recover from this? All that things. Okay, now let's go to the next part of it. It is the assessment and the diagnostic findings. Okay, clinically the person came, we already learned what the disease condition is. So what clinical manifestations have we learned? On examination or assessment, what all we'll find through each system, that also we have found. Okay, the next is assessment and diagnostic findings. What is the assessment and diagnostic findings, or what all can diagnostic measures we can do to find out the person is really going through a heart attack? The first one is the patient will have history. The patient's history is really important. Always remember to take up patient's history while you are working up the patient. Like you are going to, when you are assessing and all, you can use your mouth. You always ask questions. Do you have a coronary artery disease, or did you have such symptoms earlier, or did you have an heart attack prior? All these things. Okay, and then you will take, next thing is, after you assessed, you did all this, you examined suddenly everything you found out. The first thing that you are going to do is take a 12 lead electrocardiogram, that is ECG. Okay, first you will attach the ECG leads on the person and you will take instant ECG. Okay, after this, after seeing the ECG and all, the patient, doctor might also suggest that the patient needs an echocardiogram. Okay, so the patient's history is important for diagnosis, the patient's ECG is important, echocardiogram. Okay, and the next is, you will send the person lab. This will, you will not wait all the while, like after my each step completes I'm going to do all this. In between you will be doing all of this together. Alright, so while you will take the blood samples and send it for creatinine kinase CK, troponin and myoglobin. Okay, you will just send all these tests and your results will be coming soon. Okay, now you, after all this, you know that the person is undergoing myocardial infarction and is going to have an heart attack, or the person is having myocardial infarction. So what you will do, you will with the help of the doctor, or the doctor will guide you through what will medical management you can take, the medicine part of it and the diagnostic part of it, the like if the patient needs a interventional method, everything the doctor will decide. Okay, the doctor may mention in the file, may verbally say, but you also have, as nurses, as paramedics, we all have certain duties. Okay, what are the goals that a person or a like a health care worker should have when a patient is coming with such symptoms? First one is, we will prevent myocardial damage. Further myocardial, we will minimize the myocardial damage. We will preserve the myocardial function and prevent complications. Alright, our goals should be, we will minimize myocardial damage, the second is preserve myocardial function, and the third is prevent complications. Okay, the doctor might suggest, may prescribe analgesics such as morphine to reduce the pain. Okay, and the ACE inhibitors may be given, thrombolytics and beta blockers. The doctor will also suggest O2 therapy, as the patient will have shortness of breath and dyspnea. Alright, after all this is carried on, or before even that, the doctor might also suggest the patient needs emergent percutaneous coronary intervention. Now what is PCI, or percutaneous coronary intervention? Okay, this is the procedure that is done to open the occluded artery to now what happens when this procedure is done, the occluded artery will be open. What this will do, it will promote reperfusion to the area that has been deprived of oxygen. Okay, this is the procedure literally does this. Okay, when the doctor is suggesting that the patient needs to be taken for percutaneous coronary intervention, or you might have heard the doctor has suggested PCI. So people will come and ask you, or you also might have a doubt that what PCI is. PCI is percutaneous coronary intervention, and this procedure is used to open up the occluded artery to promote reperfusion to the area that has been deprived of oxygen. Alright, now this is all the medical part of it. The medical management part of it has been covered. And then next what I am going to take is, as nurses we have certain interventions that we carry out. Okay, what are those interventions, and how should those interventions be carried out? The first one is, the patient will complain of pain. So what you will do, you will try to reduce the pain, and you will try to relieve the other symptoms. Okay, you will what you will do when the patient have pain, you will check the vital signs first. Elevated vital signs may also show that the patient is having pain. You will as per the doctor's doctor's prescription, you will give oxygen therapy to the patient, and it should be documented. Whatever a nurse or whoever does it in the medical field should be documented. But as nurses, you should always remember that whatever you do, you should document it, no matter what. Okay, if the patient is refusing, document it. If the patient is accepting it, document it. If you could not do that procedure due to some technical problems, document it. If you have done it, very good, document it. Okay, documentation is the key. Okay, so when you're going giving oxygen therapy, the doctor may say give oxygen on 4 liters, so you're giving it on 4 liters. Suddenly the patient's saturation is maintained, so the doctor will say minimize it to 2 liters. So when you go reduce it to 2 liters, don't forget to mention that on 4 liters the patient is having oxygen saturation was so and so. The doctor recommended that the O2 levels oxygen be reduced. So that also you have to mention. While giving oxygen, you also have to see for the saturation. Alright. The head and the torso part you can elevate. Now what happens when you do this? It will prevent the when you elevate the head and the torso, the pressure will be relieved from the diaphragm, and this will provide better lung expansion. Okay, and you have to check for, and because of this, the drainage of the upper lobe lung also will improve. Okay, next is improving respiratory function. The patient will be on O2 therapy, and you will be attaching a pulse oximeter to the patient. Always check for the saturation. You will understand the pulse levels, also the respiratory levels also. Alright. Now monitor the fluid volume status of the patient to prevent overload to the heart and the lungs. Okay. Encourage the patient to breathe deeply. Change position frequently. What happens when the patient is changing position frequently? This will help to prevent pooling of the fluid in the bases of the lungs. Okay. Next is reduce anxiety. To reduce anxiety, you should have a pleasant face. If you are anxious, your patient will be more anxious. So you should have a face that will not show anxiety to the patient. First, you should provide privacy to the patient. There will be many people who want to know what is going on, so just give privacy to the patient. Check for the environment. If the environment is comfortable, like patient is comfortable with the environment, provide privacy. And after you have all done this, you have to explain all the procedures that you are going to perform on the patient, so that the patient's anxiety is reduced. Okay, and do not give false reassurance to the patient. If the patient is going through something, just tell the truth to the patient. Don't give false hopes to the patient. Alright. And if the patient is trying to sleep, okay, to reduce anxiety, you will prevent the patient, you'll encourage the patient to sleep, because of maybe after all the drugs that you are giving, the patient might fall into sleep as well. So you will prevent any disturbance to the sleep. Okay. Now you will monitor any potential complications that can occur. So you will have to monitor cardiac rate, rhythm, heart sound, blood pressure, the chest pain, is it elevating or is it reduced. Okay, respiratory status, urinary output, skin color, temperature, and ECG changes. And the patient might also show changes in the sensorium. Okay, all this was what interventions you will carry out as a nurse. Alright, now for the last part of my video, I am going to Nanda nursing diagnosis, what we can write for Nanda nursing diagnosis. Okay, the first one we can write pain, because the first thing that we are going to see is pain. Okay, when you write acute pain, evidenced by facial grimacing, restlessness, or changes in the BP and the blood pressure and the pulse, and this vital signs are elevated. Okay, this is all pain scale. You will show you will ask the patient from 1 to 10 how much is your pain. So this will all show that evidences will show that the patient is having pain, acute pain, okay, related to what evidenced by all those things, okay. And what interventions you will carry out when the patient is having pain, like it's said earlier, provide a calm and quiet environment, reassure the patient, reduce anxiety, give oxygen therapy, okay. When the patient doctor is suggesting give oxygen therapy because when you provide oxygen, it increases the myocardial uptake and may relieve the discomfort. All right, you will do all this to reduce the pain of the patient, will help patient to you will elevate the head end of the patient to relieve discomfort, okay. You can help the patient to change position and everything. All right, the second one is risk for ineffective tissue perfusion, okay. Now the risk factors might be reduction or what are the risk factors? Risk factors might be reduction or interruption of blood flow, that is hypovolemia, or it will be characterized by vasoconstriction and all, okay. Now for this, what are the interventions that you are going to carry out? We will investigate for sudden changes like loss of consciousness or stupor and all, okay. Then what is the rationale? Because cerebral perfusion is directly related to cardiac output, so the patient might go into all these things like loss of consciousness and stupor. Now inspect for pallor, cyanosis, cold and clammy skin. Now what is the rationale for this? Diminished cardiac output may be evidenced by pallor, cyanosis, cool, clammy skin, okay. Next is monitor respiration, okay. Now why do we monitor respiration? Because cardiac pump failure, rationale is cardiac pump failure may put the patient in respiratory distress. The next one is assess for Homan sign, that is if the patient is having pain in the calf or dorsiflexion, erythema or edema, okay. What is the rationale? These are the indications for a DVT, deep vein thrombosis. Alright, two Nanda diagnosis we have covered. The third one is risk for decreased cardiac output, okay. Now what we can do is, what are the interventions that we can carry? We can auscultate BP. Rationale is what? To know the blood pressure of the patient, okay. And while auscultating, we can compare both hands of the patient, both the hands ka BP of the patient, okay. Now we will auscultate for crackles, breath sounds, because we learned earlier that crackles can show us that the person is going to cardiac distress. All right, like the crackles reflecting pulmonary condition may develop due to depressed myocardial function. Monitor heart rate, okay, and monitor labs. All these things will show us if the patient is going into myocardial infarction or an heart attack, okay. The third one is we've covered the third one. The fourth one is activity intolerance related to pain, fear, decreased oxygen supply, okay, as evidenced by alteration in BP, heart rate, weakness, okay, angina, okay. What we'll do for this? We can monitor nursing interventions are monitoring vital signs, encourage rest, okay. Avoid abdominal pressure, as we like abdominal pressure in the sense of patient, if the patient is holding breath or bearing down and all, you will tell the patient to avoid abdominal pressure, because abdominal pressure can lead to bradycardia, okay. Activity intolerance, the fourth Nanda diagnosis we have completed. The fifth one is fear and anxiety related to the fear of death, okay. Decreased knowledge on what is happening as evidenced by fearful attitude and restlessness, okay. The nursing interventions that we can carry is provide calm and quiet environment, okay. Reassure the patient, don't give false assurance, reassure the patient, okay. Inform the patient about self-help, Okay, if you're getting some labs and the patient is conscious and oriented and is talking, you can tell, okay, we've got your labs, this is the result. Okay, if the result is good, the patient may feel less anxious, or if the result is bad as well, you can tell the patient, see your this is your blood report. Okay, we can carry out all these interventions, the doctor is arranging for the same. Okay, now then we can orient patient to procedures. If you are going to take blood from the patient, for it is a simple procedure that a nurse does. The first thing is, you will wash your hands, and after all that procedure, you go near the patient. You will make sure that the patient is that patient only whose blood you want to collect. You will, after all doing all this, if you pull the patient's hand and poke on the patient, or without informing the patient what you are doing, if the patient is conscious, the patient may feel like, why is this nurse doing this? So what you can do is always inform what you are going to do. And if you are taking a lab test, patient is asking, you inform the patient, I need some blood samples for the lab test. The patient will ask you what lab test. Give the patient the information that so and so lab test you are going to conduct, due to which you will get information of so and so. Alright, the patient will feel more reassured and calm. Okay, answer questions. If the patient is asking, sister, what is my blood pressure? Or if the patient is asking, sister, did my lab results come? Or sister, what procedures are going to carry out? Will I survive? All these questions you can reassure the patient. You can give the proper answer to all the like medical questions the patient is asking. You can even encourage the doctor to talk to the patient to decrease the patient's anxiety. Okay, and if you can always encourage the patient to ask doubts. Okay, due to which the patient will be able to ask you questions and get rid of the patient's doubts, and will have a clear idea of what is going on. So this is all about acute coronary syndrome and myocardial infarction. I hope you all have understood. Okay, and if you have any suggestions, please mention it in the suggestion comments below. Okay, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, please click the like button. Okay, after you subscribe, there will be a bell button. Please click on it so that you will get notifications when I post a new video. And please share all these videos with your friends so that it might be helpful to them as well. Thank you so much for supporting. Bye.